help me. They'll kill me and my baby. Please don't leave me here. I beg of you. Please help me and my baby." Life has never been so gentle with Amaka. By the time she was 38, she had tasted enough bitterness to last a lifetime. Her hands were rough from scaling fish and handling crab shells. Every big market day, she walked on her foot to the market because there was no money to pay for a taxi. She would set out her small tray and prayed that she would return home with at least some money to buy gari. Yet, none of these weighed on her as much as the silent emptiness in her heart. For the past 13 years of her marriage, not once had she carried life inside her womb. The shame clung to her skin like wet cloth. Timi, her husband, was a carpenter. He was not a wealthy man, but he was faithful to Amaka. He loved her unconditionally, standing by her side, even when others mocked her for not being able to give birth to a child. But his love was not enough to silence his mother. That woman was relentless. So, Amaka, for a whole 13 years of marriage, you still haven't given my son anything. Not even one child. Amaka, to God who made me, you are a man, you're not a woman, no. Her words were like sharp knives, cutting Amaka open again and again. She told Timi to marry another wife, one who would give her grandchildren before her bones turned cold. Each time she did, Timi defended her. "Mama, children comes from God, not from man. Leave my wife alone. Allow her to have peace for once." His words calmed Amaka, but only for a while, because no matter how he shielded her, the wound remained. That evening, after the market, Amaka carried her clay pot to go and fetch water. It was already 6:30 p.m. as she walked to the river. By then, the moon had already climbed into the sky. She moved slowly, her thoughts louder than her footsteps. She kept thinking about Timi's mother and how people have been gossiping about her. This only made her feel worse. When she reached the river was dark, rippling softly under the moonlight as she bent to scoop water. Her pot was almost full when she heard a sob. At first, she thought it was the cry of a bird or the call of some animal. But then it came again. This time, it was filled with pain. Her heart pounded as she looked around. The sound was coming from the thick bush near the abandoned canoe at the riverbank. Amaka hesitated. She had heard too many stories of how spirits often lured people at night, pulling them into darkness. She told herself to leave, to mind her own business. But the sob came again, and something inside of her would not let her walk away. She decided to tiptoe through the tall grass, moving closer. And when she got close enough, she saw a woman tied to the broken canoe, her arms bound with rope, her belly swollen with pregnancy. But Amaka's eyes widened at what lay below the woman's waist. There were no legs, only a long green tail covered in the shimmering scales glinting under the moonlight. "Wait, a mermaid!" Amaka's clay pot nearly slipped from her hand as she froze. Every tale she had ever heard screamed in her head. At that moment, mermaids are evil. They lure men. They drown women. They bring misfortune. She turned to run, fear burning in her chest. "Please help me." The voice stopped her mid-step. She looked back. The mermaid's eyes glistened with tears. Her voice cracked with desperation. "Please, help me, help my baby." Amaka's legs shook. Every instinct told her to flee, but her conscience would not move. She stood there, torn between fear and pity. She swallowed hard. "What? What are you doing here? Why are you not in the water?" The mermaid sobbed again, explaining how fishermen had captured her the night before. They tied her here and planned to sell her. She had overheard them talking, boasting about the wealth she would bring. Before Amaka could respond, she heard voices in the distance, men laughing as they approached the river. Her chest tightened. If they came and saw her here, she would be in danger, or worse, they might decide to tie her too. Without thinking too long, Amaka rushed forward. Her fingers trembled as she pulled at the rope. It was thick, biting into her skin, but she tugged harder, sweat running down her hand. At last, the knot gave way, and the mermaid slumped free. The voices were closer now. Amaka panicked. How could she carry this creature? She was heavy, and her tail made her almost impossible to lift. But just then, a group of women appeared at the river with calabashes, laughing loudly, distracting the men. It was her only chance. Gritting her teeth, Amaka bent low, heaved the mermaid onto her shoulder, and staggered away. The weight was too heavy for her. Each step was a battle. She prayed no one would see her as she slipped through hidden paths, avoiding any person coming to the river. By the time she reached her hut, it was almost 8 o'clock. Her wrapper clung to her body with sweat. She was so tired. She laid the mermaid gently on her raffia mat, gasping for air. The mermaid blinked at her weakly. "Thank you. My name is Ariel." Amaka sat frozen. Her heart was still racing. She had brought a mermaid into her house, and her husband, Timi, would soon be home. Back at the riverbank, the fishermen returned to check on their calf, only to find only the broken rope and empty canoe. Panic spread through them. They searched the bushes, shouting, turning over grass, but found nothing. By morning, their whispers had reached the entire village. But in Amaka's hut, a mermaid lay on her mat, her scales shimmering faintly. And just as Amaka tried to calm her racing heart, she heard the sound of footsteps outside. Timi was home. The crickets chirped louder as Timi's footsteps drew closer. Amaka's heart hammered in her chest. She glanced at the mermaid on the mat. Her scales shimmered faintly in the flicker of the oil lamp. Her belly rose and fell with shallow breaths. Amaka whispered sharply, "Please, don't make a sound." Ariel nodded weakly, clutching her swollen belly. The wooden door creaked open. Timi stepped inside, his shirt damp with sweat, the smell of sawdust clinging to him. He dropped his hammer and satchel by the wall. He washed his hands quickly, fetched water from the pot, and poured it over his head. Amaka tried to act normal, her hands fumbling with the tray of food she brought. But her movements were too clumsy. When Timi noticed it, he ate quietly for a while, but his eyes kept darting toward her. Something was wrong. His wife was never this timid, never this restless. Finally, he asked, "Amaka, what is it? Why are you looking like someone who saw a ghost?" Her throat tightened immediately. She kept her head down, stirring at the pot of soup even though it was already cooked. "Amaka!" Timi pressed. his voice gentle but firm. Talk to me. Is it because of my mother again? Amaka swallowed hard. For a moment, she thought of lying, of burying the truth in silence, but she could not. It was too heavy. She turned slowly, her lips trembling. Timi, there is something I must tell you. Timi's eyes narrowed, waiting. Amaka's words came out in a rush, her voice low, fearful. She told him about the mermaid at the river and the impossible decision she had made. When she finished, silence filled the hut. The only sound was the crackle of the fire. Timi stared at her, his mouth slightly open, his food forgotten. He walks toward the corner where the mat lay. There, under the glow of the lantern, Ariel shifted weakly. Her long green tail glistened. Her eyes, deep and glassy, met his. Timi's breath caught in his throat. He stepped back instinctively. His chest rose and fell quickly. Amaka, what have you done? Fear burned in her chest. She fell to her knees, clutching his leg. Please, don't be angry. I couldn't leave her there. She begged me. She is pregnant, Timi. She was crying like a child. I couldn't. Her voice broke. Timi pulled his leg away gently, his eyes still fixed on the mermaid. He rubbed his head, confusion and fear battling in his mind. He had heard stories, yes. Who hadn't? Mermaids were not to be trusted. They brought curses, misfortune, even death. He paced the small hut, his hands trembling. Amaka, this thing should not be here. If people find out if those fishermen know you carried her into our house, they will kill us. Do you understand? Amaka wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I know, but what was I supposed to do? Watch them sell her? Watch them kill her child? She pressed her palm to her chest. Timi, I couldn't. I am barren. I know the pain of emptiness. I couldn't let her suffer like that. Her words cut deep into Timi's heart. He looked at her, his wife, weary and broken, carrying wounds no medicine could heal. He thought of his mother's harsh words, the whispers of the villagers, the years of waiting. He sighed heavily. He turned back to the mermaid. Ariel's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Her lips trembled as she whispered, Please, I will not harm you. I just need a safe place, and then I will return to the water. For a long time, Timi said nothing. Then, with a deep breath, he sat beside Amaka. All right. She can stay, but only for a short time. We must find a way to return her before the fishermen come searching this way. Amaka's eyes filled with gratitude. She clasped his hands, whispering, Thank you, my love. Thank you. The days that followed were heavy with tension. The fishermen were restless, searching the village, house to house, as they keep asking questions. Amaka lived in constant fear. Every knock on the door made her jump. She hid Ariel during the day, covering the mat with clothes and baskets. At night, she fed her quietly, giving her small portions of yam and dried fish. Timi worked as usual. He avoided conversations at the carpentry shop, afraid someone might ask him about the mermaid. When he comes back home, he often finds Amaka sitting silently beside Ariel, the two of them whispering in low tones. Despite the fear, something unexpected happened. Amaka began to feel peace. For the first time in years, she had someone who depended on her. One evening, as Timi and Amaka were eating, Timi spoke firmly. "Amaka, we cannot keep her here. The festival is coming soon, and you know the masquerades will be out soon. It will help bring distraction. That is our only chance to take her back to the river without being seen." Amaka nodded slowly, fear tightening her stomach. She knew he was right, but the thought of letting Ariel go pained her deeply. That night, as Ariel lay resting, Amaka whispered to her husband, "Timi, what if they catch us? What if they see us helping her?" Timi placed a hand on her shoulder. "My love, kindness is not a crime. Not everyone is wicked." As the festival drew nearer, the village buzzed with preparations. While the people were celebrating, Amaka and Timi were busy planning on how to return the mermaid to the river. Timi brought out his old carpentry wheelbarrow home, cleaning it carefully. On the appointed night, Amaka wrapped Ariel in cloth, covering her tail as best as she could. Timi lifted her gently, placing her in the wheelbarrow. Amaka walked ahead, her eyes scanning every corner to check to see if there's anyone tailing them or coming. The river was not far, but each step felt endless. The drumming of the festival echoed behind them, masking their hurried footsteps. At last, the river came into view. Timi pushed the wheelbarrow closer. He bent, ready to lift Ariel into the water. But just as he reached down, a torchlight flickered behind them. Someone was coming. Amaka's chest tightened as the torchlight flickered behind them, bouncing against the trees. Voices followed low, muttering and drawing closer. Her heart leapt into her throat. She turned quickly to Timi, whispering harshly, "They are coming. What do we do?" Timi's hands trembled on the wheelbarrow. Sweat ran down his forehead. He looked at Ariel, whose wide eyes shimmered with panic. Her fingers clutched her round belly, as if to shield her unborn child. "Stay quiet!" Timi hissed. They pushed the wheelbarrow into the shadow of a tree. Amaka crouched low, holding her breath, while Ariel wrapped herself tighter in the cloth. The voices grew louder, two men, fishermen by their rough tones, arguing about the mermaid they've just lost. "If I ever find the person who untied her, I will cut their hands," one spat. "Keep your voice down," the other whispered. "You want people to hear you?" The footsteps faded, and the voices melted into the distance. Amaka exhaled, her body shaking with relief. Timi closed his eyes for a moment, gathering his strength. Then he whispered, "We have to move now, before they return." Together, they rowed the wheelbarrow to the water's edge. Timi bent down and slid his arms beneath Ariel, grunting as he lifted her weight. She was heavier than he expected, but his arms held her firm. He carried her carefully into the shallows, the water lapping at his legs. Amaka stood at the shore, scanning the path behind them. When Ariel's body touched the water, her tail flickered weakly. She sighed, relief flooding her face. For the first time since Amaka had found her, she looked alive. But before she slipped fully into the water, Ariel turned her gaze to Timi. Her voice was soft, almost like the current itself. "Why did you help me? You could have sold me, like the fisherman." Timi shifted uncomfortably, still holding her partly in his arms. "Because not everyone is wicked. It is not about who you are or what you are. It is about the choice to do good, and I choose to do good." Amaka's chest swelled at his words. She has always known her husband to be a kind man, but hearing him say it aloud made her eyes filled with tears. Ariel studied him. Then she smiled faintly, despite her exhaustion. "Your kindness will not be forgotten. It will pay you back a day not long from now." With a final nod, Ariel slid fully into the water. Her tail flicked once, scattering silver droplets across the surface, and then she disappeared beneath the rippling waves. Amaka stood frozen, her hand pressed to her chest. For a long moment, there was only silence. Finally, it was over, or so they thought.